G'day, mate, and welcome to Friday Facts 299. It's the one before the big one, we hope. Anyway,
We hope.
We hope. Yep, I've got a Mojo with me, of
Hello.
course. And this Friday Facts is everything is more complicated than expected.
Nothing's ever simple in life, is it?
Oh, look, I think when the bottom line is when it comes to code, no. As soon as I try to do something simple, or even I asked one of the guys who actually are way better at modding than I am to do something simple. It's like, yeah, that's a 5-minute job, and they come back to me 5 days later with yeah, 5 minutes was completely wrong. It turns out I went through some obscure little, thing, and it works now, but oh boy, never again. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
that whole what if thing really creeps up. It's like, oh yeah, that sounds simple.
It does.
Just divide by 0. Oh, but what if you want to do this? And what about that there?
Yeah. This is why I've never done programming jobs because I can't program, but I have done web development and other sort of things in the same genre, I guess. And there's always been no, before you say okay to the job, you need to talk to the client and have a very, very clear, this is what I want. This is the design. This is what it has to do. Nothing else. Because otherwise, feature creep starts getting there. So anyway, sidetracked already. We're 20 seconds in. So we have rail signal logic. Now, as a train moves forward, it tries to reserve signals in front of it. Sounds simple enough. If it can reserve a signal, the whole block guarded by that signal gets reserved for that one train. If a train can't reserve the signal, as the block is reserved or occupied by different trains, it stops in front of the signal and waits. This is how trains work in Factorio.
That's how trains generally work in real life, more or less. Although the reserving part isn't done by the train; it's done centrally.
Yeah, it's
the reserving. You can see that work because the signal turns yellow. That means it's been reserved, and all the others leading into that block turn red because it means it's been pre-allocated.
Yeah.
Something new or dramatic.
It's been in Factorio basically since rails and signals were added, except for those couple of updates where trains ignored signals and bad things happened. Anyway, once the train passes the signal and enters a new block, it removes the reservation on the signal block it had reserved. So the one behind it. Once it exits the block can be reserved and entered by other trains. It's simple. We move forward, we reserve a block. When we're in the block, we remove the reserve from the one behind us. This looks nice and simple. Simple. Looks nice and simple. Nothing fundamentally wrong. What can happen with this logic, especially since we've had it for almost 5 years, and it all just works. Yep. So, in the example on the screen, we've got a train coming in from the right, which is in block number 1, so it reserves block number 1. And then as it goes into block number 2, it reserves that one twice, because there's a special rule that a train can enter a reserved or occupied block as long as it's reserved by itself. So it goes into 2, it reserves 2 twice, once to go in through that between 1 and 3, and then once to go in between 3 and 4. Since the train reserved block 2 twice, but removed both of the block reservations entering it, back to the basic code in the first line, when it got to block 3, it removed the reservation on block number 2, and it removed it twice because it had 2 reservations. Does it have 2 reservations?
It would have 2 reservations, but there's 2 reservations, but it exits it twice, not once.
Well, originally in the code, it only reserved things once.
So yeah, except for this exception where it'll reserve twice.
No. Okay, so they did code that in. Yep, okay. So it reserved 2 twice, and then once
of that special case.
Yep, and once it exited number 2, it removed both reservations.
Yeah, but the problem is it's currently in 3, which means it hasn't actually left 2 yet.
Well, it needs to go through 2 to get to number 4. Yeah.
You see how mind-bending this thing is.
Yeah.
This is why nothing's ever simple.
Yep. Which means that the train still counts. Hang on. Which the train still counts on going back through number 2, and the block is basically open for any other train to enter. This can lead to collisions and also surprisingly desyncs, since we don't save block reservations, but deduce them from signal reservations whilst the game is being loaded.
And there's the key thing there. So because the train reserved the 2 twice, but it's in 3, it isn't. It's released it, but it isn't actually done with it. So the path is still reserved for it to go through it. So there's nothing stopping the train, another train, from saying, "Oh, that's not reserved." Number 2, number 2's now been freed because it's in 3 now.
Yep.
Because it's been released twice, even though it's still reserved for.
Well, it's
2,
not reserved. That's the problem.
Concerned.
It's
it's
not reserved at all.
Oh yeah, it's not reserved at all. But the train in 3 still thinks it's reserved for him. But the problem is it's not reserved, so that means there's another train on 2 that will happily say, "Oh, I'm going to reserve that for me now." And then slam into the train going from 3 to 4.
Yeah, yeah. So this is how things break.
Yes.
And that's exactly what happened. That have train collisions. Now, again, this is probably a use case if you've got some of those lovely roundabouts and intersections we see on Reddit, where a train can go through and loop and round and twist and turn and out the other way. And that's probably how this bug has mainly come up, because blueprints that people see on Reddit, they end up using over and over and over. And you have more and more people using weird and wonderful designs that probably have trains going through a multi-reserved block that they've unreserved every single time and then gone back through, and, crashes have happened. Anyway, so the solution. So they knew what the problem was. The next solution was quite straightforward. Add a support block to be reserved multiple times. Removing the reservation decreases the counter, and the block is only freed after all the reservations are removed. So when it goes into block 2 when it needs to go through block 2 twice, it reserves it twice, and then rather than removing all the reservations, it removes one when it goes from 1 to 3, and then removes the second one when it goes from 3 to 4. But the real bugs and problems start after that, because we now need to make sure the extra block is reserved exactly the same amount of times as it's unreserved. Logic around this was far from rigid, as it just wasn't needed. So prior to this, they didn't have very good code, I guess.
Would have been very old code as well.
It would have been, because it would have been when trains were
standard.
Introduced, which is what, like 12, 11, 10?
Earlier?
7? 5? Old time ago. Long time ago, in a distance, in a place far, far away, when Factorio was first made and trains were added, they added the code for this sort of stuff, which then means probably nobody has played with it since. So, they had to read the code, confirm the code, update the code, add the new things they needed for the code, so it reserved and then unreserved things the exact same amount of times as they needed, and voila, problem solved. Apart from bugs
and features,
unintended features. Yeah. So and going down the crash reports for the last 2 weeks, we've got like May. We're getting down there. We're down to what's that? Like sub 250. It's like 200 bug reports per day.
Pretty low.
That's really low. And then we jump up to 1,200, and then down to 1,000.
As soon as the update came out.
Yeah, and then they fixed it somewhere between 6 and 7. They did another update, which took us up to 2,500. Which was probably the one which was, what was it? If you drive a train in manual mode past the signal, the game crashes. I think was the exact bug report that got fixed.
Let's see. So June 8, that was the one where No, that was the day before, June 7.
You got to remember,
they're a day behind.
Yeah, our time and their time. Yep.
So that would have been driving past in manual.
Yep.
And then the one before it was the one that I kept coming across where I had a clue, but I never tested it properly. It was a chain signal being reserved crash the game.
There we go. And then, even then, like we've done this major update, and we're still like, and this must be the most demoralizing thing for the team. They were down to like 200 bug reports per day, and now they're up to like what, 600? No, hang on.
It's just doubled it in the end.
Yeah, at least doubled.
Well, once it settled down, it's probably triple actually.
Yeah, it's just that must be horrible. That you get things so clean and so so well refined, and then we fix one minor thing, which, like I said, has been in here since version X when trains were first added, and hasn't really been an issue. But it's just now that they're down to that last 200 bugs, they're probably ironing out a lot of things that have existed, like trains accidentally crashing into each other when going from 3 to 4 and saving the state and desyncs and that sort of stuff that have probably been there forever, but happens so rarely it's not worth the time to find out, because there's other bug reports that happen more often and are probably easier to track down.
And it would have also fell below the noise of all the other just unexplainable crashes.
Yeah. Oh, look. Crashes when when you have mods installed and the game crashes, it sends a crash report, and there's going to be a certain amount of those that the devs are just going to go, nope, not even looking at. It'll actually need like a crash report with a post on the forums, with some details, with some explanation, and then they'll go look at it. And especially like the one we had a couple of weeks ago was super, super fast trains. The super, super fast train one would definitely bring this error up a lot faster, because it's going to be reserving 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 2, 2, 4, 4, like several times, because of how fast those trains are moving. Because they had a acceleration of 10,000% or something.
Yeah, it was 10,000.
Yeah.
Still, in fact, I think it might have been more.
Yeah, it might have been. It was ridiculous, and they're the sort of things that they're real edge cases, and they will break and crash the game more often. But again, like, the game's just not designed to have trains that running that fast. So is that a mod fault, or is that a fundamental code fault? And yeah, trains have been working fine for 5 years, apart from occasionally if you have things perfectly signaled and you ran through some sort of loop condition, it might crash. But I have never built a train track in this combination, therefore I've never had a train crash like this.
Speaking of, did this actually introduce a new bug with the? I'm sure everyone's seen it. The new three-way junction.
No, what do you mean?
Where it shows 3 trains all phasing through each other.
Oh no, I haven't seen that one.
Oh, that's a good one.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right.
I'm not sure if this is related to the current changes or if it's something different.
No, haven't seen that one yet. And they have added a PS here, and I'm not sure why. Since we can now use train stops as waypoints, not only blocks, but rail signals can be reserved more than once as well, as trains can path in a circle and reserve the same signal twice along the path. I don't get that one line.
16 train stops as waypoints, not only blocks, but rail signals can be reserved more than once.
Yeah, I don't get it.
Oh.
Yep, okay. So, Friday Facts went above both our heads. Bug's been there for years. It's got fixed finally. Way more crash reports. And supposedly 3 trains can phase through one another.
Apparently.
I've yet to see it. I don't know. I generally make sure that my train tracks are clear enough that I don't have ever 3 trains getting close to one another in an intersection, because it will slow them down. And it probably means you could plan the trains better overall. But yeah, I think that's it for this Friday Facts, yes?
That is it.
I don't know, is it? Anything else you want to add?
No, that's it.
Okay, well then, we'll see you guys next week for the big 300. I really hope it's something special. Yeah.
Maybe they'll release it.
Oh! What, version 1.0, just because we're 300?
Just for 300, just because it's 300. Or they'll do the complete opposite and do, like, nothing to see here. Move along.
I thought you were going with the complete opposite. Maybe here's version 1.0.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, but no, maybe they'll just do the complete opposite of that and just be like, yeah.
Friday Facts 300. Nothing to see here. Move along. We took the week off. All right.
See you next week.
See you guys next week. Bye.